Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu salam, rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Tariq Khalid. I'd like to welcome to our program here at Sharjah Media Corporation on getting to know your Lord, getting closer to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the creator, the sustainer of all things, the one who nothing happens without his knowledge, nothing happens without his permission, that you can't move your finger like this or blink an eye without Allah's permission, without Allah's knowledge. And for the people who are arrogant, who says, well, who can stop me from doing this? As an example, Allah gives people of ignorance rope. He gives them rope. And of course, if they continue to be deluded, they will be deluded until the angel of death comes and takes their souls. And of course, at that time, then they will be in serious trouble. It will be too late to say, now I believe, now I understand. It will be too late. So we encourage everyone, take some time out for yourself. We're finding today that people are extremely busy in worldly affairs. Of course, we live in a world, we have to do the things that are required to take care of ourselves and our families and our communities. This goes without saying, and each of us have different levels of responsibility based on where it is that we live. And that is to be respected. And that is, of course, what makes our societies work. But at the same time, individually, each one of us needs to take out the time to do what? To worship our Lord, to put our life in the correct perspective. When we don't do this, then we'll find ourselves out of sync. And many people, they don't admit to this, but they find themselves in a void. And unfortunately, they turn, in many instances, not always, to many things that will only take them deeper. They'll just go into a deep, dark pit. And some of them won't come out. So if you feel depressed, nervous, upset, and terminologies can be many, unhappy, distressed, emotionally imbalanced, whatever terminology that you wish to use, then we call you to the one who is the preserver, the one who can only give us peace. It's only Allah. Now, I've heard people make fun of Muslims. They said, look, there's a religion of peace. Those guys over there bombing and killing people, look at that. There's a religion of peace. Look at that guy. He's saying Allahu Akbar, but he's destructive. So I've heard people say this, laughingly, and of course, in anger, or people who are opposed to Islam, and generally people who are ignorant about Islam. And why am I saying this? Because we see today Islam being bullied around the world, in some very harsh terms used by people against Muslims individually and Islam collectively. But that, it doesn't change the course of our actions or the course of what we believe. And it doesn't change us from inviting the harshest enemies to Islam, because this is the basis of Islam, and this is the basis of Allah's religion. And historically, the prophets of Allah all faced opposition. They all faced, and the people out there today who call themselves Jews and Christians, okay, if we talk about the message of Jesus Christ, we talk about the message of Moses, most of the people opposed them also and attempted to do harm to them. So what we're facing today is not something new at all. But the difference is a very simple one. And there's an imminent danger in this, that we are clearly, distinctly in the last days. There's no question about this. When the last day will come, only Allah knows. But we're in the last days, and the signs are clear for us. So there's a sense of urgency that we should have in relationship to the people who are ignorant about Islam. People don't choose to hear it. They don't want it. Of course, everyone has their choice. the people who are ignorant, who don't know, but will listen, then we have a great responsibility to inform them that the issues that many people are facing today, particularly those things internal, emotional, which we're finding our society is plagued with today, which in many instances now is transferring into violence, that Islam is the solution for that. And those people who call themselves Muslims, who are promoters of violence, they themselves are away from Islam. This is factual. That doesn't make them necessarily a non-Muslim because he's a violent person. But this is not the characteristic of our Prophet ﷺ, and this is not the characteristic of Islam. So we must distinguish between the two. And a simple thing, if we were to make a simple analogy, there are approximately 1.8 billion Muslims in the world. If the Muslims, individually or collectively, were violent people, and Islam was really a violent religion, and we were promoters of violence, then the whole world would be on fire. The whole world would be in confusion, and that confusion would be because of what the Muslims are initiating. But of course, we know this is very far from the truth. If you don't believe it, wherever you live, go to any masjid, and see how the people treat you. No matter how you dress, no matter what you speak, no matter what your opinion is, look at how they treat you. So this is an example for us. Why is it? Because we want everyone to understand and have this opportunity. It may be your last chance. Allah, we don't know when Allah has written the end of our lives. So the opportunity to understand the truth and absorb it and put into place in your life is limited. There's a window. It's not eternal. So we need to understand it and put that in perspective and look at it in relationship to what my individual condition is presently. So for everyone who is looking at the program who is not Muslim, or if you know people who are not Muslims, invite them to Islam. Don't think negative. Allah is the controller of the hearts. We are not. We're just inviters to Allah. Sure. And people says, well, you know, where I live, I'm in an area where there's a hate thing going on against Islam. I says, yes, but do you think that everyone there hates Islam? No. There may be some people who are adamant and very aggressive where it is that you live. And the other people may be quieter and don't believe what these people believe, and they're just quiet about their belief. They don't necessarily go along with it, but at the same time, they don't oppose them, which is a common person. A common person, he just doesn't get involved. This is not my business. I'm not involved in this, one way or the other. But we don't want that person to not have the opportunity. And then there are many good people who says, listen, I don't believe what you're saying. I have my own opinion. I have my own belief system. What you're saying, you want me to be a groupie, meaning you want me to follow what you have to say. I don't agree with that. And I'm not concerned about what your opinion is. You don't respect my opinion, that's your problem. But I'm not going to submit to this. I think what you're saying is a form of ignorance, and I don't accept it. And you cannot impose it on me or force me to accept it. So you always have people like this who will stand up and say, listen, I don't want to hear that. Please, this is what you want, you do that. I have my own personal concepts and ideas, goals and aspirations. Fine, thank you. So we have a responsibility, the Muslims, to the best of our ability, to number one, set an example, or attempt to set an example of the kind of lifestyle that would be inviting to people to Islam, wherever we are in the world, that we attempt to distinguish ourselves from whatever environment that we're in, so that people can see, okay, well, there's something distinctly different about this person, And in many instances, this gives you an opportunity to talk to people about it. People want to know. He says, I noticed something different about you. And he said, what is that? What do you see? He says, well, I noticed that you do this, you do that. You know, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm a Muslim. I pray 5 times a day, every day. Wow, 5 times a day? People will say, every day you pray 5 times a day? Rain, shine, sleet, snow, hail, regardless, you pray 5 times a day? So yes, I pray 5 times a day. So the person, now it becomes interesting because this is very unusual for him. He wants to know, what's the benefit in this? Why do you do this? Is there some significance in it? You know, what's the basis for what you're doing? So this in itself becomes an invitation. And in that invitation, we can offer the person peace. Yes, peace. People say, well, when I want to have peace, I play music. I put on my headphones and I go into my zone. Another person says, you know, when I want peace, I do yoga. Okay, an example. Another one says, you know, when I want peace, I do meditation. And this puts me in my zone. And I just kind of chill and everything is all right. Says, I'm not against any of those things if that is what you choose to do. But I can offer you something better. And he says, well, what's better, man? I'm really feeling good with this. I said, okay, fine. Let me ask you one question. Those things that you mentioned that you do, are there some rewards and benefits above and what you physically feel? Well, I said, yeah, you know, well, I'm just kind of cooled out after that. And now I can put my mind on whatever it is that I want to do and how I have to move forward in my day. You know, I don't start off in the morning without, you know, putting on my headset and listening to these particular tunes or some inspirational speaker or whatever it might be. I said, okay, fine. But you still didn't answer my question. That's still a temporary benefit that's based on just your physical existence. Is there anything above and beyond that that you can identify? He says, well, what I'm offering you is something that's going to benefit you in this life, something that's going to benefit you in the hereafter, something that's going to benefit you in a way that you can see or feel, in a way that you don't see or feel, or something that's going to benefit you presently and something that will benefit you tomorrow or in the next year. Can you make a comparative analysis with that? Okay, let's look at some evidence. If we look at the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, his father was the idol maker for his people. Ibrahim alayhi salam destroyed one of the idols. So to make a long story short, when his father came home, he says, I know you're the one who did this. And, you know, why is it that you're doing this? So Ibrahim alayhi salam told his father more or less, he says, well, you know, why don't you ask the idol? You believe in the idol? He says, well, you know, the idols, they can't speak. So he says, how can you worship something that's powerless? If someone takes an axe or whatever and destroys it, it can do nothing. How can you worship that if you think that this is your God? To make a long story short, the people collected wood and made a huge fire like no one had ever seen before. And they had to cast them in the fire. It was so hot, they had to make a catapult. So they made a catapult, they put him in the catapult, and the catapult cast Ibrahim into the fire. Now, people would say, okay, that's an old fable, that's tale, so forth and so on. But Ibrahim alayhi salam was a major prophet. He's the father of the prophets. He's not a small person. So the documentation of this is not something that's fictitious. Why did Allah do this? Allah commanded the fire to be cool. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he came out of the fire after 40 days in the fire, 40 days, 40, he said more or less that these were the best days of his life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the fire cool and made inside the fire like a garden of paradise. People says, well, how's that possible? We need to understand something. We're talking about who? Allah, the one who created fire, the one who created the properties of fire. Yes, those properties for us, we have certain things with the fire. The fire is destructive, and the hotter the fire is, the more destructive it is. But Allah created the elements that make the fire. And Allah can do as He chooses. But it is based on our belief, isn't it? So we see proof of when we talk about peace, that the real peace that we're looking for internally can only come from worshiping Allah. Everything else is temporary. You don't believe it? Okay, fine. Look at people who go into substance abuse. Why do many of the people go into drinking alcohol and taking drugs? They're looking for some peace. They're looking for some kind of relief from whatever it is that's going on with them in their life, isn't it? In most instances. They're looking for something to take them outside of themselves, outside of their environment. And in many instances, the people actually commit suicide. Some knowingly and, of course, with that intention, and some not necessarily intentionally doing it, but the actions that they take lead them to this, because after a period of time, whatever substance they're taking, they're not getting the same effect that they had previously. So what do? They start taking more of it, or they start mixing it. They start drinking more alcohol, they start taking more drugs, or they start mixing the drugs with the alcohol to make it more toxic. And of course, it becomes toxic and they die, as we've seen with many famous people historically. We ask ourselves one simple question: why? And we've seen in recent times people, and I won't name the people, but it's all in the news. We've seen in recent times people who are, by modern standards, very successful, very famous, loved by the general public, commit suicide in this way. Why is this? Because they were not happy. Not happy. So happiness can only come from Allah. And that can only come by following Allah's order and obeying Him. My name is Tariq Khalid. I'd like to thank you for joining us here at Sharjah Media Corporation on getting to know Allah, getting closer to your Lord, and we hope and we pray that everyone is getting some benefit from these programs and that you'll be inspired to turn to Allah and find that peace that you're looking for. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.